Well, folks, welcome back to another episode of DEC Does What. I'm Sean Mahar here with
Erica Ringwald.
And we are super excited to have a incredible special guest on with us today. But
DEC celebrity.
DEC, yes, very much so. But before we get into introducing our celebrity of the day,
I'm so curious as to who it is.
Oh, hey, well, look at him. He's already joining in. This is the way it's going to be, folks.
I couldn't help myself.
He can't even let us get through the intro.
You just broke right through that wall.
I know. See, right? There's no walls here because we
don't have walls in DEC.
Listen, it's all a river, and we're all flowing down it together.
It is. And coming out of last week's episode with our dispatch folks, that was super fun. And we've got some really great feedback. But, Eric, I realized after re-listening to that, we never asked you, what's your favorite search and rescue story?
All the ones I'm not in. That is my goal, to get through my tenure at DEC without ever being in the Ranger highlights.
Same. I wear that as a badge of courage to always keep my name out of that. And now I think, like we covered on that, I'm an overpacker in the woods. I always want to make sure that I'm never going to have to call a ranger. But I'm glad to know that they're there and the dispatch folks
100%
behind the scenes supporting it. But, coming out of the Adirondacks, which are actually the headwaters of the mighty Hudson River, today we have the man, myth, and legend, Chris Bowser, on our podcast today.
Well, Erica, Sean, thank you guys for having me here. Very, very happy to be on.
Excellent. So, listeners,
DEC does what?
Exactly. So, listeners may know this voice if you've tuned into our Facebook Lives most recently, or pretty much since the pandemic till now. Chris is our regular contributor, inspiring passion in nature and getting people intrigued about this mighty Hudson River that is right out our windows here at 625 Broadway in Albany. So, Chris, we're so excited to have you on the show today and just go a little bit more behind the scenes about you, about your work, and about the important work that we're doing to protect and restore the Hudson River here in New York State.
I love it. I love all those topics.
So, where should we begin today, Erica? What do we want to talk to Chris about first?
Let's talk about how you get kids interested in science and the Hudson River.
Oh, that is one of my favorite topics. There's a lot of different ways you can get kids interested in the Hudson River. And of course, one of the best ways is to be at and sometimes in the Hudson River.
Yep.
So I have the privilege of working with an incredible team of educators and scientists at the Norrie Point Environmental Center in Staatsburg, New York, just a little north of Poughkeepsie. And one of the things we love is when a bus pulls up and dozens of sneakered feet come pattering out of the bus. And many times these students have never been to the river before, or they've never been exposed to fishing in the river, and they put on waders for the first time, and they pull a seine net through the river, and fish come up out of that net. And the excitement in their faces is just amazing. So one of the ways that we love to get kids involved in the Hudson River and involved in science is this little nugget of discovery. Like, hey, let's go to the river and see what actually lives there. And the point of that is, yes, there's stuff that lives in the river, but the other point of that is that we want our students to have a sense of stewardship, a sense of belonging to this river. Like, it is their river. This is not some Discovery Channel thing that only happens once in a lifetime. It's like, no, come back to the river. Go to the river in your community. Go to the stream in your community. So in addition to having programs at Norrie Point, we also try to have programs all over the place. And one of my favorites is a day in the life.
Also mine.
Of the Hudson and Harbor.
Mine too.
What do you like about it, Erica?
So for me, I think because my kids went to an elementary school that participated in Day of the Life, so they both got to join right here.
No
on
kidding.
The river by central office. And that was super cool for them. I like watching the kids get their hands on the fish.
Yeah.
Getting in the water.
Yeah.
Watching the guys with the seine net.
Yeah.
It's just super cool. And they really get into it.
That's awesome. By the way, anybody out there who's listening is like, what the heck are they talking about? A Day in the Life of the Hudson and Harbor is this event that happens every October where it's basically a field trip times 100. So we have 5,000 plus students and educators all sampling their piece of the Hudson and Harbor, their piece of waterfront. And what happens that day all depends on the school, the teacher, the kids' abilities. It's very much an inclusivity kind of event where whatever works for that community is going to work for that particular field trip. So we'll have students with say nets. We'll have students with water quality kits. We'll have students with watercolor kits. And everybody's collecting data. And data means a lot of different things. It means fish and it means dissolved oxygen, but it also means talking with the people who are around and just looking at the local environment. And all of that data gets put online. And anybody listening can go online and look at 20 plus years of collections of people all up and down the mighty Hudson estuary.
Yeah, that citizen science aspect and data is so critical, not just for student learning, but for our ability to really monitor the river over time. I think one of my favorite parts of day in the life, obviously, kids smiling, splashing, getting wet, getting their hands dirty, perfect, is when they throw the tennis ball in the river and you watch it go in the opposite direction of what you expect because it is a tidal estuary.
Yes.
The tides influence the river all the way up to the Troy Dam, and that's fascinating to think about.
It is amazing, and it also amazes me how amazing it is for people to learn that for the first time. Like, oh, wait a second. You mean the ocean tides are 150 some miles north of Manhattan, still thrumming back and forth. And this is like such this open arm of the sea all the way down to the ocean. It's one of the most exciting and amazing places to work. And that's one of the lessons that we try to really emphasize with people is you live in a great place and your decisions matter. You can have a powerful impact on the beauty of this place.
So I'm not sure listeners are really understanding how passionate you are about this work.
Yeah, if it's not coming through.
Yeah, but what made you such a passionate advocate for connecting people to nature like this and really opening their eyes to what's in their backyard and the importance of it?
That is such a good question. I had a couple of with seminal experiences, like key experiences for me. So I thought that I went to school at Rutgers University in New Jersey, and that was actually my first experience in the waters of New York Harbor and like working on research where we were seining and catching fish and then often cutting them open and looking at what was inside and all this stuff. And I was like, this is really neat. And I thought I was going to be a field biologist or a laboratory biologist. I thought that I was going to be. But after college, I switched it up a little bit and I joined the Peace Corps. And so I lived for 2 years in Mauritania, which is in West Africa, deep in the Sahara Desert. And that experience really kind of shook me up in a good way. It made me listen more. It made me realize that the people who live in an area, whether that's the Hudson or whether that's West Africa, that's where the solutions to environmental problems are. And one of the best ways that as a scientist or as a restoration person, one of the most important things you can do is listen to people and work with people. So that's the experience that turned me from, I'm going to be a scientist to I'm going to be involved in science, but with something else. Community engagement and education and all these different things. That was an experience that really sat with me. And then a few years later, I ended up back here on the Hudson River working for the Hudson River Sloop, Clearwater. And that was my first experience as a professional educator, on-the-job training, figuring it out right there. But you're working on a boat. So if anybody doesn't know what the Clearwater is, it's a 100-foot wooden sailboat, traditionally rigged, built in 1969 and fundraised by a lot of different people, including the wonderful Pete and Toshi Seeger. And it's a floating classroom. And because you're outside, you have to be loud. So people are like, Bowser, you're so loud. I was like, well, I had to be loud. For years, I had to yell, lessons on fish biodiversity across 100 feet of sail deck. And there's a little bit of a show personship to that. There's a little musical element. There's a little theatrical element. There's a hands-on element. So the Clearwater is what imbued me with kind of enthusiasm for education. And plus, you're on the river all the time, so what could be better?
So you were really shy in retiring before that experience? I'm not buying it.
Probably not.
I don't see it either. Not at all. So
you really got me dialed in there.
But now let's go behind the scenes a little bit more too, right?
Sure.
You are in front of the camera quite often. I don't know if it's almost weekly. Every time I seem to log on to Facebook these days, I'm like, oh, there's Chris Bowser doing something else.
It's really whenever Ben nudges me enough.
So how do you adapt then, right? Because you've been on boats, you're in front of kids, and now you're speaking to a camera. And like, how do you maintain that? Because a lot of times I imagine it's audience participation, right? You're gearing off what the kids are asking you and sort of adapting to them. Do you find it difficult to do these Facebook Lives?
No, I don't think of it as the camera. I think of it as the person on the other side of the camera. So I'm trying to like talk to a person. Like I may not know that person or peoples, but that's who I'm trying to talk to. And the other thing is it's nice to have people to respond with. So if you notice on these Facebook Lives, a lot of times we're doing these with other people. There might be other educators. There might be people who are behind the scenes, or even sometimes just participants. And trying to engage them in it as well kind of gives it a more, just like a friendly atmosphere, and it's more of a conversation than it is a lecture, And so just keeping it that and seeing what the world sort of coughs up at the moment. If we're pulling a net or we're walking through the woods, we don't know what we're going to find. But the cool thing is that, and this is like sincere, I find nature and I find the world to be a really fascinating place. It can often be a really challenging place. But it's always an interesting place. So picking and choosing what to talk about kind of on the fly, it comes with time. But it also just comes with looking around, and hopefully that inspires other people to do the same. Like it's not about like being a good performer or being a good talker. It's about being curious and about observing whatever is going on in the world at the time. Something that anybody and everybody can do.
So that's a perfect segue. You spend every day in, near, or adjacent to the Hudson.
On a good day, yeah.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever encountered?
Oh, wow. The weirdest thing. Okay, so I have a reputation for loving an animal, a specific animal, and that animal is the eel, right? So, and be careful, because I could go on for a long time about eels. But what I think was a great story was how I first got involved. So I mentioned being on the Clearwater.
Yep.
The Clearwater would have a trawl net that they would put over the side. And so we were trawling down in New York Harbor, a little area called the Bay Ridge Flats. And the net comes up, and it's full of sea stars and oysters and horseshoe crab or whatever we caught that day, including a small Fisher-Price toy recreational vehicle, like a plastic toy camper. And it's covered with barnacles and sea squirts and bryozoans. Oh, and I'm still like getting my sea legs about being a teacher. So I'm holding this up and I'm talking about it. I'm telling people, look at this great habitat. What should we do with this? Is this trash or is this habitat? And the audience, they're enraptured with what I'm saying. Their jaws are dropping. And I'm thinking to myself, I am crushing this. I am so good at this. Look at these people. They are eating out of my head. And then I realized, wait, they're very, very focused on the toy truck. And out of the passenger side window of the truck was slowly uncoiling a foot-long American eel.
Oh,
that's awesome.
why?
As far as the audience was concerned, I was like the adults in a Charlie Brown cartoon. You just went, wah, 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 wah. All they were doing was watching this eel come out of this Fisher-Price truck. And that was like a moment of like epiphany for me. I was like, oh, this little critter's got some distance here. I need to find out more about this. And once you start finding out about eels, you're doomed. You're in. You're hooked. Game over.
So let's talk about that a little bit then. What's your day like, right? So you're out there, you're passionate, you discover something like an eel, and you're like, ooh, I got to go back and research it. Do you have enough time in your day to do that, or how do you balance out your days? And are you pretty much out and about in the field all the time, or are you in like doing research yourself sometimes?
Does anybody ever have enough time to do anything ever?
No.
So let's answer that first. So no, and I although I am very, very lucky that I get to be outside in the field sometimes teaching, sometimes doing these social media pieces. The truth is, there's a lot of backstage work that happens. So I probably spend much, much more of my time at a desk and at a computer than I do out in the field. So a typical day in my life might be spending most of it, whatever it might be, looking at grant reviews or writing reports or answering and sending emails and communicating with people, setting up for programs. Luckily for me, I have an absolutely phenomenal staff that I work with. And I mean that like the people that I supervise, the educators that I get to supervise, but as well a great team of people who supervise me or other teams that are working in concert. So a lot of my work is just making sure that the staff I supervise are supported and that the people who are supervising me are happy with what's going on. So then if I'm lucky, I can get out into the field a little bit, maybe in a canoe, maybe on a shoreline, maybe down in New York City, wherever things can bring me. I'll spend as much time as I can outside, but there's a lot of backstage work that has to happen to support that.
Yeah, besides watching you on Facebook, Chris, the last time I did get to interact with you was in a canoe, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Just watching adults even, right? Because I think we focus a lot on kids now. We were out and about with some of the governor's cabinet officials and other high-ranking officials from the state, and their eyes lit up. And here's Chris Bowser just talking passionately about the Hudson River and about Iona Marsh, I think we were in, and just like how important it is. And you answered their questions so eloquently, and you left them with such a good, positive experience. And that's where I've always appreciated you for that. And to see you live in action was just cool. And doing it in a canoe is awesome, too.
Well, that was a great day too, because so we were there on a high tide. We had a really high astronomical high tide. So it was a great day to kind of talk about what an estuary is, what a tide is, and the value of wetlands. So, on that trip, for example, my colleagues, Christine Pasella and Brian DeGasperis, were also on the boats with us. And so their work is looking at things like, well, how do marshes respond to climate change? How can we protect marshes from wave action? And then my job is to interpret some of the great work and research that they're doing. And you also met Jim Harrington, my other super colleague. So Jim and myself and our other education team, our job is really to tell the stories of the estuary, but to also tell the stories of all the people who are working on the estuary and who are trying to make things as resilient as possible, even in the face of change. And even in, like we talked about, even though there's a lot of stakeholders that want to be involved and sometimes there's competing interests, but we try to we try to conserve this resource so that many people get to use it in many different ways, but still have that resource go on.
So, Chris, what's been your biggest challenge then, right? As you're out there inspiring people and like doing this, and
yeah,
I appreciate you speaking highly of your staff, right? It's good leader, and I hear your leadership qualities coming across loud and clear. Like you're recognizing your people who are also doing the work and the importance.
They're amazing.
But what is the biggest challenge that you face right now, or what is the biggest concern you have for the future?
I think that one of the things that I get concerned with is I think that we've got a beautiful river that I think has made tremendous strides in recent decades in terms of getting cleaned up. And some of that is time and some of that is action that people have taken. Some of those actions are, individual decisions, and some of those actions are at the federal and state and policy levels. So I think the Hudson River, how's it doing? I get that question all the time. How's the Hudson River doing? And I'm like, much better than it used to be. Perfect? No, but find me a perfect system anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges that I face, or that we collectively face, is how do we make this river, and how do we make the natural resources of the Hudson Valley as equitably accessible for everyone as possible? Like, how do we make sure that the beauty, the resources of the river can be enjoyed by everyone? And so part of our programs are trying to address that. We're trying to make sure that our programs are reaching as many people as possible, and especially those people for whom river access might be challenging. It might be challenging, for some students. It might be challenging for them because they may not have the time, or they may not have the transportation, or they may not have the opportunity. So I think that's one of the big challenges we face, is making sure that our river and our programs are accessible for everybody. Wherever you're living and whatever your background is, this river is for you. And we want to make sure that everybody knows that and enjoys it.
When you go on vacation.
Yes. Vacation in quotes, sure.
When you're away from all of your wonderful colleagues at DEC.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And you're taking time away from work.
Sure.
I've heard you often vacation to do eel research. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. I warned you that we would go down some rabbit holes. We can go down so one of the things that I have found is that, when you get into when you really get into a niche, you meet experts all over the world who share those niche interests. And eels are like one of those niche interests. So, for example, I had the opportunity to help teach a class in South Africa a few years ago, not for the DEC, but for Marist College. And while I was there, I was, let me reach out to some eel experts. And after a few emails, I found myself on the Ngani River in Durban, South Africa, checking eel nets for the giant mottled eel, which is take the eel that we have here in the Hudson and then dapple it with a beautiful green camo color and make it a little bit bigger and heftier than what we usually find here. And lo and behold, we found some of these beautiful eels. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm finding these eels. And then another time, I was in Italy, also for teaching a class, and there's an eel festival in the historic town of Comacchio, and it just so happened to correspond with when I was there.
Oh, I'm sure it was an accident.
It was, though. That's the beauty of the serendipity of the eel. You just kind of follow the path, and oh my gosh, it opens up. And of course, I got on WhatsApp, and I find some eel experts, and they're like, yeah, we'll be in Comacchio. Come on by. And we just had a great time visiting the lagoons and the canals and the eel factory and the eel history of that place. So it's really about finding a niche. And it's honestly, at the end of the day, it's not about the eel. It's about the people who are interested in the eel. So even here in my DEC work, right, we have this beautiful community science project called the Hudson River Eel Project. And yes, we do love the eel, and we collect data on the eel, and we submit that data along with our DEC partners to a whole consortium of Atlantic states that are managing that. We're all about the science. But what that really is it's a vehicle for people, young, old, all walks of life, to get involved in science in their communities. So for everybody listening out there, every spring, sites from New York City to near Albany, we will be conducting the Hudson River Eel Project. And for a lot of people, that might be their first experience with a little bit of science. And that might not be their last one, though, because some of the students that do the eel project, they put on the waders and they collect these baby eels out of these nets and they learn about them. Some of those students go on to do our other programs. So we have like an incredible summer science research program called the Institute Discovering Environmental Scientists. My good friend Maya came up with that awesome acronym, which is TIDES. Oh, well done, Maya.
Very nice.
And for 2 weeks, these students now they take a next step on their stepping stone. So now they are researchers working with us at Norrie Point. And they're doing academic posters, and they're collecting data, and they're coming up with hypotheses. Even if they're high school students or college students, this is what they're doing. And if they really love that, maybe some of them then go on to do other research fellowships, either in college or in high school. And the whole point there is what we try to do is provide stepping stones that And I don't like the ladder. Is it a ladder of success? I don't like ladders because ladders are very linear and very hierarchical. No, life is like a stream. And sometimes when you're hiking through the woods and you come across a stream, you got to jump from stepping stone to stepping stone. And sometimes it doesn't work out. You got to go backwards. That's life. So we try to put these stones out there that maybe students and young people choose to step on in their journeys to becoming a scientist or just becoming a person who is science literate. And so all these great programs, we hope, are helping people to find their way across their streams.
Take that, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Life is like a stream.
It certainly is.
It is. So, Chris, you talked about the Eel Project,
Yep.
Day in the Life of the Hudson River. What
Yep.
are some of the other ways that folks can get involved in our work here?
I'm a huge fan. You mentioned coming out on a canoe program. So every year we offer a whole variety of canoe programs, including public canoe programs. So you can just sign up and come out for free on these beautiful, beautiful wetlands that are managed and studied by the Hudson River National Estuary and Research Reserve. So we are very happy to have people come out. And even if you've never canoed before, we've got great staff that will guide you through it and make sure that everything is safe and sound and wonderful. So we recommend that. We're also a big fan of public programs that we have. So every fall, we have a great program called Science on the River, which is an open house at the Norrie Point Environmental Center. And we have staff from the Research Reserve. We have staff from the Hudson River Estuary Program. All of our DEC affiliates and family come down. It is fantastic. And we totally recommend that people come and join us in those. So the best thing to do is to get online, see what's going on. Hudson River calendar. I'll tell you, actually, here's the best thing to do. Sign up for the Hudson River Almanac. The Hudson River Almanac, along with Hudson River Net, are two great ways to find out what's going on in the river. There's like weekly updates that if you choose, you can have these like sent directly to your email. Hey, what's going on in the Hudson River? What are people seeing on the river? And what are people doing on the river? So for people out there like, what's my next step? Hudson River Almanac, Hudson River Net, boom, we'll hook you up.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, I hope to see you more out in the field coming up here.
I'm looking forward
fun
to it.
hang out with anytime I'm in a canoe with you or just, watching you on
Can
Facebook
you both
Lives.
be in a canoe at the same time if you both like to be in the back?
Ooh, I don't know.
Can you canoe in a little boat built for two?
It's songs, everybody. See,
It's
this
a
is Chris
musical
Pauser.
interlude.
It's so great. Well, Chris, this is great. Thanks for coming on and really
Awesome.
telling us a little bit more about you and your work, and going a little bit more behind the scenes of, what people are seeing on our Facebook Lives. I do have to give you a tip of the hat. I was one of the first people to start Facebook Lives here at DEC during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Did a little bird watching 101 episode.
That was a great one.
It was one of the highest ranking, or highest viewed segments until, of course, you come along and have to put me to shame.
No, that's not true at all. Listen, it's a rising tide floats all boats.
It does indeed.
So I know it's a podcast and I know it's like radio, but of course I had to bring props with me.
Of course.
So one prop I have is this cool sort of jagged diamond-shaped bony scoot about the size of a drink coaster that is basically part of the armor plating of a 6-foot Atlantic sturgeon that was salvaged. So this is just a really cool reminder of like, what's living in the Hudson River? This giant sturgeon are living in the Hudson River. So you've got this huge fish. It's this connection between the ocean and the freshwater and people. Oh my gosh, these things are awesome. And then the other prop I have is a tiny little jar of alcohol. And inside the alcohol is what looks like a toenail clipping, but is actually, here you go, Erica,
Great
that's for
setup.
you.
Great setup, Chris.
But what it actually is a larval baby eel caught in the Sargasso Sea in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean by my good friend Grace Ballou on a program. And so I love that we have this little messenger from the ocean. Now, granted, it's an alcohol and not doing so well, but it's a reminder. We've got both the giant multi-meter long sturgeon, and we've also got the tiny little baby American eel. And you know what? hats off to biodiversity. What a great river.
Definitely. So I do have to ask sturgeon, right?
Sure.
These are like prehistoric fish. It's so amazing.
Absolutely.
When you get them in the boat, are they flopping around a lot? And have you ever lost someone overboard?
So first of all, I don't want to take credit for being a great sturgeon fisherman. I've been out a bunch, but Captain Amanda Higgs and her Hudson River fisheries crew, they're the real heroes here. And sometimes these fish come up and they are pretty big. You get a 6-7 foot sturgeon, and if that doesn't want to come out, it's going to start moving. But Amanda and her crew do an amazing job of like stabilizing the fish. They have special hammocks for the fish. They have special playpens in the water for the fish. I mean, we are treating these sturgeon as gently as we can, taking them out of the water as briefly as we can, measure them, tagging them, and then letting them go on their journeys. But it is quite an awesome, awesome production. I bet if you ask, you could get on one of those boats.
Oh, we need to do that.
I have a feeling you might have some pull.
Maybe a little bit. We'll see about that, Chris Bouncer.
But we're working on a really cool partnership with Cornell University right now on not just like catching and looking at fish, but also listening to fish. Bioacoustics is a really cool program where we put basically microphones in the water and see what we hear. And a lot of people, will laugh at that and like, fish don't make sounds. Au contraire. We found that a lot of different fish species make sound, including, ready for this? Sturgeon Thunder.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's the name of our band, Erica.
Give us your best impression of Sturgeon Thunder, please.
probably something like,
Oh my God.
That's some thunder, all right. You broke, Eric.
you asked for it.
We might need to. This is a family podcast.
Very, very
okay?
low frequency. Here, why don't you? I'll do a better one. Ask me that question again. I'll do a more family appropriate version. Go ahead.
Chris, give me your best impression of a Sturgeon Thunder.
Boom. Boom.
How's that?
That was much more PG.
Not as good.
But
I think Sturgeon Thunder is the name of our podcast photo for today's session.
First of all, I want to give a shout out. I have the fortunate experience of working for a lot of different organizations through the DEC. There's the Research Reserve, there's the Hudson River Estuary Program, and there's our partnership with the Cornell University Water Resource Institute. And all of these groups are involved in not just education, but lots of other cool stuff as well.
I will say you inspire me. You inspire me to want to do more of this. You come with such passion to the work that you do, and it comes across in just the way you carry yourself. So kudos to you, and thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. We're all doing great work. For everybody out there, be the best estuary you can be.
Oh,
wow.
There you go.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. That was an amazing conversation, Erica. So cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you the
I'm
awesome
exhausted
people.
just
Me too.
sitting here.
Exactly. But it shows you the great people that work for DEC and who you'll meet out in the field. And I definitely encourage you to take Chris up on his offer of checking out one of the canoe trips that they do. It is so fun to just get out on the water and to learn about all the nature that's around you.
Sounds good.
But speaking of learning, Erica, what else is DEC doing around the state this week?
Well, today is the 22nd annual Day in the Life of the Hudson River Estuary. Woo-hoo. Yeah, so that's taking place. It involves hundreds of locations up and down the Hudson, from the Troy Dam to the Battery. I think we estimate up to 5,000 kids and young people participate, including schools here in the Capital Region. So it's a pretty amazing day, and if you weren't able to make it down, check out the news tonight because it'll be all over it.
Definitely.
Related, we recently announced there's $1 million in grant funding available for projects in tidal Hudson River communities. 800,000 of that is for tributary restoration and resiliency projects, which is pretty cool, and 200 is to improve community access to the Hudson River.
That's so fun and so important to just, breeding that connectivity to this amazing resources out there that Chris talked about today.
So if you want to learn more about those grants, check out the DEC website. You can also email DEC's Hudson River Estuary Program at HREP grants at dec.ny.gov. And we're taking applications until December 12th.
Yeah, so get your keyboards ready and start typing up how you want to use these grants to connect even more people to the Hudson River. And it's just some of the ways that we leverage our state resources to really expand our work. We're working with our partners out there, and it's some of the best projects that we've seen happen from this program overall.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Also, next week on October 15th, we'll be having a meeting out in Buffalo to share the results of our statewide community air monitoring initiative. This was pretty cool. We collected hyperlocal data in 10 communities across the state. And now that we've got that data, we're taking a hard look at it. We're partnering with community stakeholders to identify some solutions to reduce air pollution.
This is really a pioneering project that we undertook to really help communities understand air quality more locally. And these community conversations that we're hosting are a key piece of that, because we really wanted to work directly with the communities to go over this data and talk about next steps. So definitely encourage all the Buffalonians out there in the world to go Bills and head out to our community air monitoring meeting.
Cool. We've also got its big game season.
Yes, it is.
And so I would encourage you to check out dec.ny.gov for some upcoming events, to register for a youth hunt. If you got kids at home who are interested in being partnered with a mentor and learning more about hunting and safe and responsible conservation, get them out for that. We've also got some hunting events specifically tailored to women and for veterans.
And you know what hunting event we have coming up next, Erica?
What's that?
Our next episode is the hunting episode. It's going to be so fun, where we get to talk to our big game biologists and go over all the things that are hunting and how hunting is safe in New York State.
You know what's one of the greatest things about hunting?
What's that?
You spend time outside.
Exactly. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of DEC Does What. Keep emailing us at contact@dec.ny.gov. Let us know more of what you want to hear about, and send us your questions as well. But Erica, again, what should everyone do?
Get outside.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement. Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, wildlife technician with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.